Good evening and welcome to America in Danger. I'm Robert Cressionnie.
I'm John Gatsis.
Thanks for tuning in tonight. You know, as we normally do, I like to start the show out with a little historical fact. And today is the day in 1987 during which then President Ronald Reagan made his famous tear down the wall speech to Mr. Gorbachev,
Mikhail, yeah.
Soviet Union. And, you know, that whole Cold War, we supposedly won the Cold War, but I think we simply outspent them.
Wow, right.
Bankrupted them. We really didn't defeat them in any other way other than to bankrupt them.
Yeah, I mean, the most succinct analysis I've ever heard, you know, of what transpired there is that, you know, we were putting about 6% of our GDP towards our defense, and the Soviet Union was putting 80% of theirs. They're basically a big third world country with a giant military, so we doubled our spending. Well, they couldn't do that.
Couldn't keep
The
up.
mathematics of that were pretty much, and, you know, the whole internal, first of all, I mean, socialist systems are inherently self-destructive anyway. I mean, they simply can't function. They have no economy.
That's right.
You know, people stood in line to get bread.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, horrible.
Yeah.
You know, people pretended to work because they
They pretended to pay them with rubles that were there was nothing to buy. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that was the joke among the Soviet workers. They would say, you know, we'll continue to pretend to work as long as they continue to pretend to pay us.
Yeah, and you know, if we don't watch out in this country, we're going to be
that's where
pretending to get paid in this country as well with the inflation the way it is.
Well, the other thing that's interesting about that whole wall thing, you know, I've heard some of the enlightened cognoscenti among us say that, well, how is that different from the wall that, you know, that we're attempting to put up, Trump's attempting to put up? Well, for the less discerning, I suppose it seems like there is a parallel there, but there isn't. I mean, the Berlin Wall was to keep people in.
Right.
It was to make it so you could not leave, you know, that horrible communist East Germany, okay, in East Berlin. And, you know, the wall that Trump was attempting to put up was to just erect some kind of a barrier to just the massive influx of, you know, illegal aliens pouring in over the border, over the southern border.
Yeah.
That's a completely, I mean, those are completely two different
things, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and they try and make those comparisons. But the thing of it is, we're not stopping people from coming to this nation.
That's right.
Even with the wall, even with wait in Mexico policy,
that's right. Remain in Mexico, right.
Deport policy, whatever. We're not stopping people from coming to this country.
In fact, we accept more legal immigrants into this country than I think most other nations combined.
I think so.
Those are the numbers as I understand it.
I think so.
Yeah, there's no barrier.
No barrier. That's exactly right. To legal entry.
Right. To legal. Well,
legal entry.
To illegal entry.
Well, yeah, they're not doing too good a job on the illegal either. That's right. Well, Congressman Nadler, also known as the Waddler, the Soiler, and Mr. I've seen the evidence, gave an opening statement to the House Judiciary Committee, the FBI hearing.
I can't wait.
And they're investigating how the FBI was so derelict and allowed the armed insurrection to take place in the Capitol.
The only arms present were the literal appendages that people had on their physical bodies.
Exactly.
I think there were zero weapons found of any kind.
That's right.
Amongst the insurrectionists.
Yeah, and you know, if that was supposed to be an insurrection, it was one of the most poorly planned insurrections in history.
Pretty pathetic.
It was pretty pathetic. What it was you had an element of Antifa.
Yeah.
You had an element of the far right white supremacists.
Right.
You had an element of overzealous Trump supporters.
That's right.
And
who were ushered in by the Capitol Police. I mean, this footage showing that. I mean, it was hardly
an armed rush on the Capitol, breaking down the walls. Now, they broke some stuff. They broke windows. They broke furniture. It was not a good thing. Yeah, I'm not advocating doing that.
Well, of course, right. But the only person that actually got hurt was an unarmed, innocent protester who was killed by the... You know, and yet we watched our cities burn all last summer.
Exactly.
Completely, the policy of police and city councils was hands off. Let them do it. In fact, we support what they're doing. We deserve to have our cities burned to the ground. That was essentially their attitude. So.
You know, it was interesting. I was looking around on Facebook today, and I happened to run across a post. And it was an individual who posted a bunch of photos of the January 20th incident and showed broken windows, broken furniture, things of that nature.
January 20th or the 6th?
The 6th, I'm sorry.
Okay.
And they tried to make the point that, oh, this was such a planned insurrection and these were such horrible things. Well, my question And I started to reply to this individual and I asked, well, where are the pictures of Portland? Where are the pictures of Seattle? Where are the pictures of Minneapolis?
Right.
Where are the pictures of all these other cities, Baltimore, on and on and on?
It's kind of hard to tell that Baltimore got burned.
Well,
It was already
yeah, Baltimore and Detroit, yeah, they look like a bombed out city anyway.
Oh, you haven't looted and burned yet. I'm sorry.
But, you know, if you're going to throw those things out there, then you need something, there needs to be a relative comparison to what Antifa and the Black Lives Matter and the defund the police Democrats and the socialists instigated across this country.
At least some element of balance in the reporting on that.
And there is none. The mainstream media doesn't touch that.
Well, we've all literally seen footage of the reporters, the CNN type, saying this is a mostly peaceful protest as a raging fire, you know, is consuming a building behind them, and people are running around shouting and screaming. I just the cognitive dissonance and the disconnect that these people have with reality.
Yeah, that's exactly right. There's a disconnect with reality. Well, Mr. Nadler went on to say that the perpetrators of the terrorist attack to justice, and I'm not sure exactly how he constructed that. It certainly wasn't a terrorist attack.
An awkward sentence or an awkward statement.
Well, that's the waddler for you. He goes on to say that, oh my goodness, maps of the Capitol grounds circulated online long before the crowds arrived in D.C. Well, typically,
maps, you know.
Typically, if I'm going to go visit someplace, you know, when I get ready to go down to the beach, to the coast, if I'm going somewhere I've never been, I print the maps out. Oh my goodness!
I guess my Paris map makes me a tourist.
Possibly
at that time, you know.
Possibly, possibly. He says we need to get to the root causes of the attack, the extremism and the racism. You know. I think there might have been a little extremism element in there with the Antifa and the right wing. And you know, I am so sick of the left equating extreme right wing with the conservative constitutional movement in this country. There is no association whatsoever. There is no endorsement by anyone on the right of this right wing extremist. And the reality of it is, that graphic should be more of a horseshoe, not a line with left and right, because when you wrap the two ends around, they're basically the same. They're closer to total government tyranny and totalitarianism than to the conservative movement.
I mean, you know, the whole left and right spectrum and that lexicon, that manner of discussing it is first of all, you got Europe, and you got their left and right, and you have to delineate there somewhat. But just as a simple matter, you know, total government on one extreme and anarchy on the other. I mean, now, the extreme right of that spectrum is anarchy, no government whatsoever, okay, which quickly descends into total government in about 5 minutes. Okay, so where do you put a constitutional, you know, when they say, well, the far right are the fascists and the Nazis, and the far left are the communists, well, where would you put a constitutional republic on that spectrum? Okay, there's no place for it, because the spectrum it's completely erroneously constructed.
It is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So total government on the left, the far left, and you know, I'm amazed that people talk about the Nazis as the far right. They were the National Socialist German Workers' Party. Okay, and if you read the 25 planks of the Nazi platform, and it's available online, and it's a fascinating read, a good third of it is dedicated to purely socialist economic policy.
It is.
Things that anybody would say, well, that's the same thing the communists want to do, and the Marxists want to do, and the Democrats want to do. You know, there's a lot of overlap. A Venn diagram, Nazis, communists, Democrats.
Large overlap.
Large overlap.
Large overlap. Very
and
large.
You know, the other elements, of course, National Socialism. That was, you know, the nationalism. That was the racist element of the Nazi platform and the extreme nationalism, but it was in no way a conservative, constitutional, free market platform that embraced, you know, the right of citizens to own firearms or property rights or any of the things that we associate with the U.S. Constitution. So it is just patently I mean, it's just so disingenuous and a flat-out lie for them to characterize the Nazis as representing the extreme of the far right. I don't know how they get away with it because it's right there in their platform and right there in their name, National German Workers' Socialist Party.
Well, if you remember right, Marjorie Taylor Greene, they tried to...
They pilloried her, right.
Over saying that the Nazis were socialist. And what was so interesting was on social media, there were so many people who came out and said, there's just no way that the Nazis were socialists.
Right.
It's like, well, they were.
Right.
Do you not read? Can you not look at their material? That's the thing, all these people, look at the material.
Go read the the 25 planks of the Nazi platform, and it's available through, I think it's the Simon Wiesenthal Center. A lot of Jewish groups who have a vested interest in maintaining awareness about what the Nazis were and what they did. But it was primarily a leftist socialist program. Just because they didn't like what the Bolsheviks were doing doesn't mean that they were somehow diametrically opposed and represented some kind of conservative Christian free market ideology. So yeah, people need to spend a little more time making sure they understand these terms and the history.
They absolutely do, and in fact, I've got those 25 planks on here somewhere on my computer.
Well,
I'll see if I can find it during the break.
That'd be great to pop up and review.
We'll talk about that.
They're well worth studying.
They absolutely are. And speaking of lies and misdirection and deceptions, President Biden, and I call him that very loosely, by the way.
Right.
Is
getting
meeting
the benefit of the doubt.
Getting the benefit of the doubt. That's right, because that's what we're told we're supposed to do by the mainstream media.
That's right.
Elections have consequences, and we have to live with them.
Even stolen ones, right?
Even stolen ones. That's right.
Yeah.
But Mr. Biden is over meeting with the G7, which is 7 large economic nations.
Right.
And they meet to divvy up the pie, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's essentially what that is.
Right.
These are globalists who are meeting to see how they can control the globe. Well, Mr. Biden addressed the troops just prior to his attendance at the G7, and it was very interesting what he said, what he indicated the greatest military threat is.
I think I know.
It's not China, who is aggressively fortifying islands all throughout the South China Sea.
And massively fortifying and growing their military.
Absolutely, growing the military with stolen U.S. technology.
Yeah, aircraft carriers.
Yep. All kind of high-tech equipment.
They definitely mean to challenge us in the future.
They do. They are fortifying their position in Africa with strategic minerals because they want to control the strategic minerals because they know he who holds the strategic minerals controls the world.
The armaments.
Controls the military, the armaments, technology, everything. All right, you got that. You have the Russians who are striving to be energy dominant.
Right.
While here in the U.S.
And being facilitated by policies promulgated by the Biden administration as recently as 2-3 weeks ago.
Exactly.
With the Nord Stream 2 pipeline.
Exactly. There's no mistaking that the Democrats and President Biden are doing everything they can to make us energy dependent again.
That's right.
We were energy independent. And also you have Iran, who's just rampantly striving toward a nuclear arsenal.
Right. Well, they want to get back to the deal that Trump abandoned. And rightfully so.
And again, we have our own domestic element, President Biden and the Democrats, pushing to get us back in the Iran deal, which guaranteed that Iran would get an atomic weapon ultimately.
Yeah.
It was just on our timeline.
Yeah, which 10 years is still 10 years. It's like people who buy the furniture, no money.
Right. No money down.
But eventually that 6 months ends, right?
That's right.
At some point, you got to start paying. Sooner or later, you get this 10-year deal with Iran, they are guaranteed. Well, 10 years in geopolitical terms is nothing.
That's exactly right. Not to mention Iran, who's spreading terrorism throughout the Middle East and trying to destabilize and wants to destroy Israel.
Right.
So whatever your feelings on that, I mean, if you believe in all of the things that they're saying in our society, but you accept the destruction of Israel?
Right.
That's a little bit
Well, we know
hypocritical.
Iran is funding Hamas, which means that we're funding Hamas.
Exactly, because we
we
have
fund
certainly
Iran.
funded
That's
Iran.
correct.
That's exactly right. And unfortunately, we got to take a little break. We're up against a hard break.
Was global warming the answer?
Yes, I'm sorry. Global warming was the answer. Global warming is the most existential threat,
Military threat.
that the military
Right.
faces, and we face as a society today. That's what Mr. Biden is saying. Now, I can assure you, contrary to Little Miss Expert Greta Thunberg, the world is not on fire, and we are not all going to die soon. So rest easy on that as you watch this little commercial break here, and we'll be right back after that. Stay tuned.
This is Nicholas Bellamy at Premier Equipment. I'm going to talk about the 4540 Mahindra. It's 38 horsepower, full cylinder engine. The weight of this tractor is 4,000 pounds. This tractor is perfect for bush hogging, distance, small garden, a hunting club tractor. Comes with a 7-year warranty, 2-year bumper to bumper, additional 5-year on the powertrain. You can have this tractor for $200 a month, and we have 20 of these tractors in stock. Premier Equipment is open during the week from 8 to 5:30 and on the weekends from 8 to 12.
Are you afraid to answer the phone because of bill collectors? A Chapter 13 plan can help. Chapter 13 allows people with too many bills to work out a debt repayment plan under federal law. It helps you control your debts instead of your debts controlling you. Chapter 13 stops creditors from harassing you and stops repossessions and foreclosures. It allows you to answer the phone again without fear or worry. Call H. Frank Allen, Attorney at Law, a debt relief agency providing bankruptcy relief under the Bankruptcy Code.
We're back. Thanks for staying tuned. And I believe we have a little video.
Yeah, there's a video circulating. Some may have seen it. It's a young mother in Carmel, New York, I believe, by the name of Tatiana Ibrahim. And she went up against the school board, to a school board meeting there, and gave a little speech. And I viewed it, and it's 10 minutes, and it was hard to pick out the best excerpt. So I think it's worth just watching the whole thing, and that's what we're going to do now.
All right, well, great. Lee, if you'll cue that up, this is Tatiana Ibrahim addressing the Carmel, New York School Board.
Regarding critical race theory.
Critical race theory, yep.
Good evening. My name is Tatiana Ibrahim, and I'm here for the first time. I'm here tonight not only as a community member, but as a parent in this district. Recently, you sent out a survey wanting to know why parents were not voting yes for this budget. So my situation, my vote for no is a little different. I think the Board of Education and those sitting on the panels are thieves. I think they're liars and have committed treason against our children. My message to this district and the members of the Board of Ed: stop indoctrinating our children. Stop teaching our children to hate the police. Stop teaching our children that if they don't agree with the LGBT community, that they're homophobic. You have no idea each child's life. You don't know what their family lifestyle consists of. You don't know the makeup of their life. You have children like mine who is Muslim, and I'm Christian, and everyone would think, they would never believe that of her, right? Because the way she looks, or according to Miss Cyrus, she's too pasty white.
Ma'am, excuse me, I'm up here. We're not allowed to use names. If you have something you'd like to discuss about a specific person, you can call the superintendent or leave your info for her to call you tomorrow.
Why are we not allowed to discuss names? Why am I not allowed when they purposely themselves expose themselves on social media, talking about calling for the death of a former president, or saying that any child that doesn't believe in Black Lives Matter should be canceled out? Is this what my tax dollars is paying for? You're teaching my children and other children that if they believe in God Almighty, they're part of a cult. These educators put their own names out there. We have Mr. Barry, who took it upon himself with Miss Cyrus to create a curriculum.
That should be it.
Do you want the proof? I have the proof. You created a curriculum of Black Panther indoctrination.
Ma'am,
You use taxpayers' dollars.
can I ask you one more time? I have no issue hearing what you have to say, but
Why can we not let the public speak? Why can't we let the public know that you're teaching our children to go out and murder our police officers?
That
Do
is
you
not-
want the proof? I have the proof. Is that what scares you, the proof? That a parent actually standing up against all of you? Is that what scares you, to call out the names of these people? You work for me. I don't work for you. You have a duty. We are entrusting our children to you. We teach our children morals, values, when they grow up to commit crimes and end up in prison and kill a police officer. It's our fault? No, it's your fault. You're emotionally abusing our children and mentally abusing them. You're demoralizing them by teaching them communist values. This is still America, ma'am. And as long as I'm standing here on this good ground earth of God, I will fight. And this is not the last of me you will see. I'm retired. I have nothing else better to do. We can do it peacefully, or we can take it to the highest courts, because you know and I know I'm not the only parent fighting this all across America right now. Schools are trying to poison our children's minds, teaching them about things that they have no right to be taught in school.
So normally, I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna just give you just a feedback for a moment. I have no problem having a peaceful discussion. This is not a peaceful discussion.
No, that's your opinion. See, here we go again. This is peaceful. To me, this is peaceful.
Well,
I'm not burning, looting, and murdering. This is peaceful.
I did not accuse you of that, but I don't have a problem having a conversation with you, a peaceful conversation, which is, this is not.
$6.95 per child in the middle school to buy a curriculum from readtome.org that wasn't even approved by the Board of Ed. The administrators took it upon themselves to buy these books with taxpayer dollars while COVID is going on. How many families are struggling to pay their mortgages? Listen, by all means, you want to teach kids these things, fine. Don't do it on my dollar. Don't infringe on my religious beliefs. Don't infringe. Do you know who makes up the majority of this district? Children from police officers' families. Blues. Back the blue children. Do you know what these children feel like when they come home? Have you spoken to them? No, you're silencing them. This whole cancel culture, you're silencing the children. Where are their rights? They have no rights. Because if they don't believe in the indoctrination, the demonic, twisted, sneaky, vile acts and education, if you call it that you're teaching our children, they don't agree with that. They're either homophobic, they're part of a cult, they're racist. What's racist? Who defines racist? Why? Because do you know what race I am? Do you? You don't. You don't even have an idea. I could be black, I could be white, I could be Asian, you don't know. Who are you to determine that? Who is anyone to determine that. You know what? Children in the school system, children, like other children, they don't look at color. Black and white children, Hispanic children, you know why they get along? Because they don't look at each other's color. So you're the racist, not them, not us. You're judging and dividing. You're causing segregation. Everything that we fought for, everything that I fought for years. So you have the right to stand here and tell me I'm not allowed to mention a name when the person, the Mr. Barry and Miss Cyrus themselves, you have ELA teachers giving out assignments on police murder. Police are bad? You want the proof?
Okay.
Because we have it.
So
What policy do you have that teachers are not allowed to go on social media and indoctrinate? They took an oath, a responsibility, and they're going against everything that they stand for.
well, I understand.
End it? End it? I have to end it?
So
Why? Why? You're on my dollar. Why?
well, actually,
Why?
I work for nothing doing this.
Oh, you work for nothing. Oh.
I do. This is a volunteer position, number
Okay.
one.
It's
Number
still
two-
my taxes paying for everything.
I hear
This
what you're
podium is every taxpayer's dollar here. We have rights. We have rights.
And you're making general assumptions.
No, I'm not making assumptions. I'm not.
because you
I
just-
know what I'm speaking about. See,
know what?
I don't
I'm not-
agree
I'm not
with you,
gonna
so it's an
engage.
assumption.
Well, I'm not going to engage in a back and forth with you about this. So if you would like to make an appointment, I would be happy to sit with the superintendent.
I don't
and have
want to. The
conversation.
superintendent, the assistant superintendent already sent an email and stated that they had no idea that these books were being put on in the students' hands. The superintendent already stated that they had no idea that the funds of taxpayers were supporting this. Black Panthers, do you know Black Panthers is a domestic terrorist group? Do you know that it was condemned as a terrorist group? Do you know they kill cops? I have a problem when you're trying to kill a police officer. I have a big problem with that. I have a problem when teachers are passing out flyers, recruiting children to go to the courthouse, to protest Black Lives Matters, when you have people sitting with signs that says all cops are bastards. Really? All cops are bastards? No, I think you people are, because the way you're acting and the way you're treating our children and our police officers and making them believe that it's okay to abuse them, I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and let you do that. No, I will become your worst nightmare, because I'm going to stand here and keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting.
Thank you.
And if not, I can actually go out, get signatures. What happens if we stop paying school taxes? You're going to arrest all the community? The majority of the community? No, I don't think so. This won't be the last of me. I want everyone to know what's going on, because you're hiding it. You're hiding it. You know who does that? Communists do that. That's what you're doing, recruiting children. Children. You're recruiting children to hate our police officers. How dare you? You have a librarian in the high school passing out Black Lives Matter pins. When a student asks for a blue live, why would I have that? Why would she have that? What did you do for police week?
Oh.
Why don't you tell me, sir? What is it you want to tell me?
You've had your 2 minutes.
I don't need 2 minutes. I can go as long as I like.
No, that's not the board.
No?
policy.
Oh. Where does it say that I can't? Is there a law against that?
There's
We do
board
have a policy.
A board policy. Who makes these board policies?
The board.
The board. And who pays the board?
No one.
Nobody.
Nobody? The chair you're sitting on, we pay for it. The lights that are on, we pay for. We pay for everything. You want to silence me because I spoke the truth. I spoke the truth. Everyone out there heard me. Whether they agree or they don't, they're going to start looking into it. And now you're exposed. That's all. It's going to end. This indoctrination and hatred towards our police officers, this systematic racism and cancel culture is going to end. You came to the wrong school district to do this, okay? You need to respect every child. So therefore, no politics should be discussed in school, whether it be conservatism, democratic, liberalism. You gave a survey after the elections. Why? Why did you ask students who they voted for? What did it matter? No answer, huh? You have no answers for me. I didn't expect an answer. That's okay, though. We'll get them some way or another. Same way you can't show us where all our money goes, right? Yeah, that's what I thought. Thank you.
Wow.
That's cathartic.
I tell you what, that absolutely is.
Right. Well, she had me at thieves, you know.
Yeah, you're right. You know, it's time that parents start doing that.
People in general.
People in general, that's
Right.
right. Because, you know, these school boards, these school districts, these teachers,
That's right. They're all snakes and liars.
they are snakes and liars, and they are pushing an agenda, and they believe that that is their right to do because
That's right.
they have an education degree, and no one should tell them how to do it.
Well, that's right. And they know best, and they've been educated, and the rubes out there whose children we're going to loan to these parents,
That's
their
right.
children,
That's right.
after we're done educating them and indoctrinating them.
That's exactly right. Well, you know, she said it's a communist tactic, and it
Absolutely.
is, because in communist nations, China, Russia, your children weren't yours. They were owned by the state on loan to you as parents.
Right, that's right.
But essentially, the state dictated what they learned, how they acted, what they did.
Well, I thought a couple of things she said were important. One of them, I like the whole thing where, you know, she was accused of not being peaceful.
Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee that same board member would have characterized the riots in all the cities that we were mentioning before as peaceful protests.
Yeah.
She gets there and has a little bit of an edge to her tone, and all of a sudden she's not being peaceful.
Right.
Yeah, these people are nauseating.
They are nauseating. They absolutely are, and they continue to do what they do because not
we let
enough
'em.
parents
That's right.
go to these board meetings, and not enough parents stand up and take a strong stand.
That's right.
And I tell you, it takes courage to do that.
It does.
But you know what?
But what that showed is that those people don't really have an answer.
That's exactly right.
They've got zero spine. They've got zero ability to actually talk back to somebody who gives them some grief. And some
Exactly.
people need to start giving these people some grief in a major way.
Absolutely do. They need to be called on the carpet.
Right.
Big time. You know, we have so many agencies out there just doing what they want to do. They're just doing it. They don't
Right.
care. They don't care if there's a constitutional limitation on it. They don't care if there's a statutory limitation on it. They're just doing it. Look at what the IRS did with the Tea Party,
Right.
and focusing on Tea Party groups and targeting Tea Party groups, while letting every leftist organization out there have tax exemption. They focused on these Tea Party groups and
That's right.
delayed and slow-walked and denied. You know, we have the FBI now asking USA Today for reader information.
Right. Yeah, I saw that. Unbelievable. They actually wanted a list of anybody who had logged into. They're asking ISPs, internet service
Yeah.
providers, for IP addresses and actual addresses of subscribers for anybody who had logged into a particular article.
Yep.
It had to do with a particular case they were working on. I think it had to do with some kind of a child porn thing.
They did.
But
They did.
but the point is, they were really about to violate people's privacy. Now, if I'm not mistaken, they backpedaled on that a bit.
Well, they should. They should. They
Yeah.
should be called on the carpet about that. You know, the FBI has lost all credibility with me, as have DOJ.
Well, frankly, even
federal department.
the politicians who are supposed to represent our interests, those of us who have the ideology and the views that we do, they're all on the grift too, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't hesitate to call names. I mean, I think both of the United States senators from North Carolina are on the grift.
I agree.
One of them we know is because he barely escaped charges.
Absolutely.
Okay, for insider trading in connection with the COVID situation. And the other one, I don't have much confidence in either for representing
do
our
I.
interests.
Nor do I.
In fact, I've got a new theory. I call it critical politician theory. I assume, and in parallel to critical race theory, I assume that all politicians are corrupt from the jump until it's proven otherwise.
Exactly. My loyalty toward a politician goes as far as his loyalty toward me.
Right.
And by me, I mean individuals.
Your individual
taxes,
liberties has been enshrined
what
in
have
the
you.
Constitution.
Exactly.
That's right.
Exactly. You know, and speaking of that, I want to throw this in. The city of Rocky Mount, Middle Rocky Mount, is in the budget approval process. Now, I received an email from Lige Daughtridge, Councilman Ward 5. And Lige is one of the few who, and one of the only ones on the city council, one of the few politicians in general, and I wouldn't really consider Lige a dedicated politician. He took this, he ran for council because he felt someone needed to do something, and I agree with that. But he has sent out the links to the budget, and he wants input from the citizens of Rocky Mount. Now, Lige treats the budget as it is our money.
Well, that's
because it
refreshing.
is.
Right.
Because it is. The rest of the politicians, the rest of the career councilmen, the rest of the councilmen and councilwomen, don't want to be too politically incorrect there,
Don't be exclusionary.
but the council persons, let me put it that way, don't care whose money it is.
Right.
They have these grandiose plans, and they just want to spend whatever they want to spend, and they don't want anyone checking them on that. They don't want anyone pulling in and saying, hey, whoa, wait a minute, what are you spending that for? You know, they just went on a retreat recently. Now, we spent millions of dollars building an event center here in Rocky Mount. Why? For events, for things to happen.
Right.
Right.
And they went on a retreat.
And they went on a retreat in Asheville.
First of all, I have a little bit of a problem with something like a city council of Rocky Mount going on a retreat.
Well, I do too.
just
I do too. That whole
that
thing.
very phraseology, to me, I find off-putting.
That whole thing is absolutely
Yeah,
outrageous.
it is. I
And,
mean,
you know,
please.
You know, Lige asked, and this was in the paper. You know, this is not inside information. This
Right.
is not, you know, this was in the newspaper for everyone to read. Lige asked for an accounting of spending by ward in the city. Now, you would think that with modern accounting practices, computers and what have you, that they could tell you exactly what monies were earmarked for each ward.
One would think.
I would think. Now, the first thing was Lige was met with harangues of racism and why are you asking for that and what's your purpose on that, and even the city manager said she was going to have to sit down and have a long talk with him because she just didn't see the point in that.
Yeah, what do you, accountability? Good heavens.
Accountability, yeah.
How
you know,
outrageous.
Absolutely. And, you know, the Gang of Two, and I think everyone knows who that is, immediately demanded in retribution for that offense of requesting accountability, reparations. Yeah, I don't know.
Reparations in the modern context that we're talking about, reparations?
Yes, reparations,
for
yes.
past sins?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, how they went from being held accountable to demanding reparations, because being held accountable is somehow a bad thing, but reparations is a good thing, because I don't know. I really don't know.
Well,
it boggles the mind.
Yeah, they're just grifters too.
Exactly. Grifters too. Absolutely are. But anyway, I wanted to throw that out there. Go to the city, look at the budget. It's a long, complicated, very convoluted document. It's
By design.
not straightforward. It's by design, absolutely is, to to obfuscate
Right.
where the money's going. There are very few definitions of these special funds that they have set up and these allocated categories. But do go look at it and support Lige Dottridge. He's doing what he should be doing as a councilman in Rocky Mount.
Sounds like it.
He's treating the tax revenue as if it belongs to who it came from, which it does. You know, we are not sheep to be fleeced. We are not a resource. We are not a source of revenue for them to spend willy-nilly and doing whatever they want to do. You know.
Well, that goes at the core of my problem with all these politicians.
Yes.
I mean, they are fundamentally parasitic.
Absolutely are.
They don't produce wealth. They don't create anything.
That's right.
They don't actually do anything but siphon off of the productive efforts and creative efforts of others. And then they dare to posture themselves as, we're going to decide where these resources
Yeah.
are put forth, when most of them couldn't engineer their way out of a paper bag
Well,
or
this
create
is true.
thing one.
This is true, and you know,
Yeah.
they've got a big scam going, and politicians, and this is on the state level and even on the local level here with the councilman. You know, most of these politicians have set up some sort of tax-free foundation from which they can draw benefits and salaries, and they are first at the trough for government grants because they have the inside track. They're in government. They know when these grants are coming down. They know who to smooth with to get these grants.
Right.
So it's a scam.
Absolutely.
And you know, any politician that says that they have a tax-free foundation, the first thing I think is, well, you know what, that's kind of like Patrice Cullors and her Black Lives Matter Foundation.
Right, which enabled her to acquire $3 million in real estate here in the past few months.
Very suddenly, yeah.
You know, after promoting the burning and looting of cities.
Absolutely, and of course she maintains that she doesn't draw any salary from Black Lives Matter International, but she certainly draws salary and benefits from the subsidiary
Right,
agencies
that's
that
right.
they've set up. See,
That's right.
that's the bait and switch.
Right.
Oh yeah, I'm not taking money from this group right here, but their subsidiary down here, I'm taking
Right.
plenty
Well, they
money.
just launder it. You know,
They're laundering it. That's
yeah.
exactly right. Same thing with the Clinton
Right,
Foundation.
that's all right.
You know, all of these tax-free foundations, and back in the, what was it, in the 50s with the Reese report, I believe it was, where there was a congressional investigation, and Reese wrote a report and said, you know what, all these tax-free foundations in the United States are doing harm to this nation. They should be taxed, number one, and some of them should be put out of business.
Right.
So, you know, it's a mess out there, but if people will sit up and take notice and do something like Miss Ibrahim,
Yeah.
you know, that's all it takes. Because those people on that board
Well, they
were
wither
terrified.
under, they wither under
they-
scrutiny.
They were
I mean,
terrified. All they
as a-
could do was rely on their petty little policies.
And they rely on the fact that 99.9% of people pay no attention to these things.
Exactly.
And don't really follow it and don't want to be bothered to dig into it. But they might be on the cusp of stirring up a hornet's nest with some people. I mean, I hope Mrs. Ibrahim is representative of a growing.
Well, I think it is. I see
discontent.
more and more. I run across more and more videos of these people doing just that.
I mean, a New Yorker, no less. I mean, that gal definitely wasn't from Red Oak, that's for sure.
She wasn't from Red Oak. But we've got some fiery individuals from this area too who can stand up like that.
Absolutely.
And yes, you know, they as you noticed in that video, they tried to intimidate her.
They did, absolutely.
they-
She wouldn't have it. That's what was so
Yeah.
inspiring about it.
That's what was
Yeah.
inspiring. She just came right back.
Well, she said, why? What do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Explain that. We have
Question-
2 minutes.
Question it when someone says,
Yeah.
well, we can't use that kind of language in here, or
Right.
we can't discuss that in here.
Right.
Why?
Yeah, exactly.
Why? These people that are doing those things, they go out on social media, as she said, and they put these things out on social media. Once it's on social media, I'm sorry.
I agree.
All bets are off.
Completely
You're
agree.
exposed, it's documented. You know, that's the thing. If you text it, if you type it, if you put it on the cloud, it's there forever and ever and ever. People think that they can put these things out and then all of a sudden say, oh, well, I'm going
to invoke privacy.
Well, you can't be looking at that. I put it out there for the whole world to see, but I don't want you all to see it because now you're criticizing me.
Well, I just thought it was outrageous on its face. Those board members wouldn't allow her to name specific names
Yeah.
of teachers who are involved in the
Absolutely.
activity that her taxpayers are funding and about which she has a specific complaint at a meeting designed to address issues regarding education.
Absolutely.
So that's, again, well, those people are grifters too.
Yeah,
They may not be
absolutely.
getting paid formally, but they're grifting in some way.
They are fulfilling their drive to control and dictate.
Right, and I guarantee they're
That's
lining their
pay for
pockets in
that.
some way
Yeah.
as well.
Oh yeah, you can better believe it. Either speaker fees
Yeah.
or consulting fees
Or
they're looking
inside
at their
information
next-
on investments, or
Right,
however,
exactly.
textbook deal. Who knows what they do? These
Right,
people are just so
that's right.
incredibly corrupt. I don't put anything in place. I didn't used to be this way, but I've
Well-
increasingly gotten to the point where I entertain the most outrageous theories now because I don't
Yeah.
believe any of the mainstream press,
No,
and I don't, and none of these people have proven to be reliable
Well, that's right.
or trustworthy.
Well, you can't believe them when they continually lie. Boys can be girls, you know.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and we got to take a little break because we overshot the first one with that video, but we're going to take a little commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the National Interagency Fire Center.
That would be interesting.
A little global warming, so stay
right.
tuned for more America in Danger.
This is Nicholas Bellamy at Premier Equipment. I'm going to talk about the 4540 Mahindra. It's 38 horsepower, full cylinder engine. The weight of this tractor is 4,000 pounds. This tractor is perfect for bush hogging, distance, small garden, a hunting club tractor. Comes with a 7-year warranty, 2-year bumper to bumper, additional 5-year on the powertrain. You can have this tractor for $200 a month, and we have 20 of these tractors in stock. Premier Equipment is open during the week from 8 to 5:30 and on the weekends from 8 to 12.
Are you afraid to answer the phone because of bill collectors? A Chapter 13 plan can help. Chapter 13 allows people with too many bills to work out a debt repayment plan under federal law. It helps you control your debts instead of your debts controlling you. Chapter 13 stops creditors from harassing you and stops repossessions and foreclosures. It allows you to answer the phone again without fear or worry. Call H. Frank Allen, Attorney at Law, a debt relief agency providing bankruptcy relief under the Bankruptcy Code.
We're back, and as I said before the break, I just wanted to mention this. You remember the hockey stick graph, don't you?
Oh, indeed.
The one that kind of was used as the gold standard for saying, yeah, look, here's this global warming all of a sudden here in the last few decades.
Right.
You know, we're causing it, sure enough. Well, that was thoroughly debunked, and what was so interesting about the debunking of that, it was not statisticians or mathematicians who debunked it. It was a couple of fellows who got to looking at the data, and they said, something doesn't look right here. And they went back and they researched all the data and ran the numbers again, and guess what? There is no hockey stick graph. It was fraudulent. The numbers were cooked. Well, guess what? We have a federal agency, the National Interagency Fire Center. They maintain a count on annual wildfires.
Okay.
All right. Well, until recently, they had every year since 1926 on record. All right. Now, suddenly what they did, they stopped everything. They threw away everything before 1983, which was actually a low point. So now what we're seeing is another phony hockey stick graph.
Right, you're using very localized data to show a trend that really isn't accurate.
That and a change in the way they report these things. Now, it's interesting because the agency came back and they said, well, you know, everything before 1983 was not recorded according to the standards that we use now, so it's not reliable data.
Okay.
Well, somehow pen and paper is suddenly not reliable.
Right.
How can that be?
Well, they're just trying to shape that data to fit a narrative.
They are trying to shape that data because everybody on the left, Greta Thunberg included, and the whole cartel
Pants
of the
on
leftists,
fire, scared of the shadow,
Exactly.
the earth is being consumed in global warming.
They're claiming that we have worse hurricanes, more storms, more floods,
Which
more
is all
fires.
provably false.
It's all provably false. Exactly.
Well, you know, deforestation, historically, just we're at a low of deforestation in the modern era. Just forest fires caused by lightning storms used to decimate forests. Millions of acres would be wiped out. You know, we control that. It is patently absurd that the Earth has less forest than it now than it did in the past.
The whole thing is absurd. You know, they claim that the oceans are rising and all these islands were going to disappear. Well, they haven't disappeared.
Right. Well, Arctic or Antarctic ice has actually grown.
Yeah.
In the South Pole. North Pole, I'm not sure what's going on there, but the polar bear populations are up there. They claim the polar bear population.
Polar bears are, believe me, healthy.
They're thriving.
You know, and all of this global warming nonsense. There's been climate change since the very beginning of this planet.
Well, that's the essence of the climate. It changes. It's a very dynamic process, and it is dominated, I'm sorry, people, by that big ball of fusion energy in the sky called the sun.
Yes.
Okay, that's 93 million miles away and completely dominates the energy that this planet receives, and in turn its climate.
Absolutely.
Not the trace gas CO2 representing less than 0.5% of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
Okay, that is just absurd on its face.
Well, it is. You know, the next thing they're going to do, they're going to come out and say, "Oh, nitrogen is a pollutant. You know, that's causing problems."
Well, boy, they're going to have a problem.
Yes.
That's 78% of the atmosphere. So.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. But that's how these things go. You know, and I love it when I hear people say, "Yeah, you know, it sure has gotten hotter," and I know the temperature's gone up because when I was
12,
it was never this hot.
right.
It's like, well, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
It is. You've changed a lot more than the climate has in the course of your, 12 to 60 years.
I'm going to tell you what, the steps have gotten a lot steeper.
Right.
You know, I don't know who orchestrated that. I don't know how they regulated that. You know, made the stairs steeper, but you know, they weren't that steep when I was a kid.
Well, that's right.
You know,
I'd jump in a pool and swim till my lips were blue in 65-degree water, and now, you know, I'll stick my toe in it again.
Exactly. We got a caller.
How about that?
All right, we're going to take this call.
Okay.
Thanks for calling America in Danger. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling from Massachusetts, and I have a question for you guys.
Massachusetts, how did that happen?
Yeah, I just stumbled upon your podcast.
Wow.
Great.
How about that?
All right.
My question is, why are we buying oil from other countries when we have the most oil in the world? Can you answer that?
That is a great question.
That absolutely is, and I've asked it myself a time or two, and you know, the only thing that I can think on that is that yes, we have the reserves. Yes, we have the capability of being completely energy independent, but at the same time, we have a deep state government who does not want us to achieve that energy independence. They want us to be subject to China and Russia and the rest of the world. And
they want an interconnected, interdependent national structure so that no nations can be independent on the world stage. That's the short answer. And a lot of people say, oh, that can't be, how can that be? But when you eliminate all the other possibilities, all that remains is that one, you know, because it doesn't make sense that our national leaders would purposely put us in a position of being energy dependent.
That's right.
Okay, that simply makes no sense whatsoever. The only way that makes sense is if they have a different agenda and a different set of allegiances. So I'm fascinated that the caller is calling from Massachusetts. Are you still on the phone?
Yes, I am. I think that maybe they're doing it to keep the peace.
Well, do you think that's an effective way to do it?
No. I don't.
I agree.
Absolutely
So what you think is that they're orchestrating these things because they think if all the nations of the world are interdependent, they're less likely to go to war. Is that sort of your theory?
I think so.
Yeah.
That's
you know,
a good theory.
actually, I think it is. I think there's a lot, you know, you read a lot of the scholarly discussion about, you know, like the CFR and Georgetown, who was it, Carol Quigley, who wrote Tragedy and Hope. That's essentially what he said, was exactly what the caller is saying, was that people would, you know, be less likely to go to war if we engineered a world where everybody was interdependent.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think.
Okay.
So what's life like up in are you near Boston?
I am Salem, Massachusetts. The
Okay. I've been there before. So what are things like up there now with COVID and all?
It's pretty open, and you know, the masks aren't required. I don't like the thing about that you have to be fully vaccinated in order to not wear a mask.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're doing the same thing here.
Yeah.
Fair.
Pretty much.
Well, we're very excited that you called, and you know, that really boosts our sense that we're getting out there a little bit. So please call again in the future.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you for taking my call.
Absolutely.
All right, thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right.
Well, that's interesting.
It's interesting, yeah. I always like to hear from people out of state, especially, you know.
Absolutely.
But we are just about out of time, but I did want to get this in with the electric cars and batteries and, you know, the whole, since we're on,
sort of dovetails and talking about the oil and everything, yeah.
You know, there's a whole, right now, I'd say we're probably moving into what I would loosely term the second generation of electric vehicles.
I think that's a fair characterization, yeah.
Well, what happens to the first generation?
A lot of landfills.
You know, you've got a lot of nasty chemicals
Right.
that are going to have to be disposed of, and that's a major concern. And on top of that, I believe you sent me something the other day that was talking about the net CO2.
The CO2, the carbon break-even point, which, as it turns out, by the time you factor in all the carbon that's produced in the course of developing or rather manufacturing these batteries, by the time you get to the end of life of one of these batteries and dispose of it, the carbon footprint of the battery is about the same as the carbon footprint associated with what they call an ICE vehicle, an internal combustion engine vehicle, and its fossil fuel emissions. So it's kind of a wash, and it's you know, I mean, I'm all for the electric car.
As am I.
And,
I'm
I think,
fascinated by
and
it.
I actually think we might be on the cusp of a real shift, just like we were. I'm sure you remember what happened with televisions. It was all tube televisions in the store, and I mean, almost overnight they disappeared.
Yeah.
And that was because of a singular technological change. They came up with the blue LED, and that enabled these flat panels. And I mean, literally, in the course of a year, there were no more tube televisions. So if they solve some of these battery problems, we will probably be looking at a lot of electric cars real soon. But they got to produce the energy to charge those batteries.
Well, that's right.
And,
You still got to produce that.
and these Pollyannish types who think that's a panacea for for a premise I don't accept to begin with, which is man-made global warming vis-a-vis carbon dioxide. They got to produce that energy. That's not going to happen overnight.
No, it is not.
Okay, and this whole thing is being engineered in a way that really falls outside of the free market and the ways that do a better job of producing these. Because I mean, the television thing, that happened through the free market. Digital photography, that happened in the free market. Overnight film was supplanted, and we went on to a new technology. But yeah, the break-even point for
is about equal to
about the same.
internal combustion.
There's going to be a lot of debris that has to be dealt with.
Recycled, dealt with, disposed of. Well, unfortunately, we're out of time.
That is unfortunate.
But I did enjoy the show tonight.
I did too.
And caller from Massachusetts.
That was a real treat. Thank you.
It absolutely was. So thanks. And you know, next week we'll be back on Saturday night. So feel free to give us a call, get some subject matter together, and give us a call. I'm Robert Cressionnie.
I'm John Gatsis.
Thanks for tuning in. Good night.